Guys, this is Ben Jammin. I go by xBenJamminx, and we are joined with Richard, BeastDFS, and Chris, otherwise known as Daily Roto Sharks, my partner. Today we will be talking about BeastDFS NBA Spreadsheets that he's been giving out for free and really caught my eye. It's some great work. I have the link to his website in the chat, and I will also be screen sharing as well as Richard or Beast going over the spreadsheet and how to use it, because there is so much information that it's hard to even fathom going through it all in a day and getting all the use out of it. So I'd love to hear his thoughts on that. So Richard, maybe give us a little history on yourself, what you've done in the past, how you've done in DFS, and why you developed these spreadsheets.
All right, Abe. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for having me. I feel kind of flattered and that had this opportunity to kind of discuss what the sheet is all about. It's been on my list of things to do, so this is a great opportunity to do it. Pretty much, I've been in DFS for like 3 years now. I work in Excel a lot. Pretty much do it for my job. So pretty kind of a whiz at it, like ever since I started DFS, I knew that with my knowledge in Excel that I could have somewhat of an advantage to to other people because of the stats and stuff like that I can kind of manipulate in Excel and use that. Because at the time, DFS was young, like about 3 or 2 years ago. It's not as big as it is right now. So, I had to find certain ways to kind of have an advantage over everybody else.
So what do you do for work? What is it that makes you so good with Excel?
I'm a senior financial analyst. So, I'm pretty much on Excel spreadsheets all day looking at numbers.
That's right up your alley in daily fantasy, man. You got to analyze the numbers all day long.
Yeah.
And we're all familiar with doing DFS at work. And if we look at CG's screen right now, he's actually at work while he's talking to us. So,
I'm at work right now. I'm running this.
Guys, we all work all the time. So this isn't the easiest thing, but we get it done for you guys. We put out a lot of good free information for you guys. We're going to start charging for more advanced things in the future that we put a lot of effort into, that we feel would be worth it for you guys to pay, $5 for a video or $1 or $2 for an article or a bunch of spreadsheets or something. So we got a lot of big things in store, but it's all going to be affordable, and we will still give out tons and tons of free information. So let's get back to it. So what made you want to put together such an elaborate spreadsheet instead of just, maybe some basic DVP or maybe some, past performance? What made you want to put together this entire massive spreadsheet?
Well, at first you should have seen what it started out like. It was just very simple, just DVP and fantasy points, and there wasn't much to it. And then, as I'm progressing in DFS and learning more about it, I just started getting creative, and it kind of snowballed into what it is now. Like, I'm like, well, DVP is nice, but it'll also be nice to know a percentage of how many times that player has scored over a certain amount of fantasy points, like the floor ceiling analysis, And then I just started coming up with kind of my own metrics and seeing how those work and if there's any trends in that. So, it just kind of grown into what it is today.
So you consider NBA your best sport?
Yeah, pretty much, because it's a bigger sample size. I like it because it's every day. You don't have to wait till every Sunday like football.
Right.
It's just once a week. So it's you could lose your money quicker, or you can win your money quicker, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like in football it's just once a week. I like it because you have the potential of winning night after night.
So do you have any plans to do other sports? Do you plan on adding new features? Because I saw the double-double and triple-double DVP stuff you added recently, which is awesome. What do you think about future plans?
Well, I had a football one this season that I was publishing. Football is a little bit more complex because there's different positions. Like it's not in basketball where everyone is kind of like, you know, uh, like in football, it's harder because each position has different value to hit. So like a quarterback has more points to hit value than a tight end.
Okay, that
You know
makes
what I'm
sense.
saying? So in basketball, everyone's on the same playing field, so it's a lot easier to update. I kind of tinkered with football this season, and I might do it again next season. Just depends on what my schedule's like. But basketball, I'm solely doing basketball. I don't think I'll do any other sport because I just don't
Okay.
have the time.
Well, in regards to
Football is
not
a huge
having the
market in
time,
football too, so you
right.
got to do football if you want to do DFS.
Yeah, football is definitely the most fun. It's definitely, tons and tons of variants. So what I would like to bring up to you is me and CG and a couple other guys are putting together these MLB spreadsheets. We've already started to look at data from last year, and of course we're not going to be able to look at the fantasy points because everything is changing. We might be able to times everything by 3, but then we'd have to account for all the outs and negatives that we don't have anymore. So it's definitely going to be, on the ground floor of the new scoring system, and we would like to maybe get you involved or just have your insight to excel that. We definitely don't have that expertise.
Yeah, I'll be glad to help. I tried to do baseball last year and it just was not. I mean, it was just too much for me.
Yeah,
And
cool. We're
it's
pretty good at baseball.
it's kind of nice having an off season too because you got
Right.
football and then you got football and then you have football and basketball that kind of mesh into each other for a little bit there, and that's just gets absolutely crazy for me.
All right, so you don't got to play. Maybe we could just put together the
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
There you go.
definitely help out in any way I can.
All right, so let's get into your spreadsheet, and we have, what is this, the one for today that we're looking
Yeah,
at?
yeah, I wasn't able to publish it, but I have the one for today that I just kind of updated for just for right now.
It's okay. So
So,
let's go through this and look at it for the day as if we were going to be making a lineup off of it. And,
okay,
we're not just because of the fact that, 7 o'clock already passed or whatever, but let's see what we could have come up with and how we could have used Beast to come up with a lineup.
absolutely, I'll be glad to. Do you want me to share my screen?
I would love for you to share your
All
screen,
right,
and when the time comes, I'll share my screen as well if we need it. But
okay,
we're going to be looking at yours. I'll be looking at my own, so I'll be checking it out while you go through it. But I'll be trying to guide you through it. I'll give you the floor, of course, but I'll ask some questions for maybe people who don't understand what we're looking at there. And let me open the chat. Guys, there is a live chat, so get in there, ask questions. This is the time. This is, the accessibility that you have with guys who are very busy. So I recommend doing it now because you may not have the opportunity to do it later. All right, so Beast, you want to share your screen and then we'll get into it?
all right. Can you see it?
Yes, we could see it. Cool.
All right,
Make sure at the top you click share to everybody
all right. Let me see.
on Google Hangouts.
Okay. So share screen.
Well, all right, so at the top, never mind. It says you are screening, so you're good. For
Okay.
my option, it says that, I guess, because I'm moderating this. So, all right, we're good to go. Go through the Excel sheet. Maybe to provide some structure, let's work through the Beast Junior. Let's show everybody the features, what it does, and maybe what do you think are the most important columns to statistics?
Okay, so just stop me anytime if you have any questions or anything. This is pretty much what it looks like when you download it. There are some features on here that some people probably don't even know about. There's drop-down menus here that can give you different averages of certain periods. So I usually like to set it on a 10-day average. So anything in the yellow highlighted boxes means that it's adjusted to this cell right here in B3. So in the last 10 days, you had DeMarcus Cousins played 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged 53.3 fantasy points. So if you want to change that to see what he did in the last 20 days, you just click on this drop down, you go to 20 here, and you see that he played 9 games in the last 20 days. All right. It's a cool feature just to see like certain trends, and you know, a lot of people, you know, you can see of the last 3 days if you wanted to. But
Right.
so I like the 10-day average because it's a fair sample size. But so here, you know, you got the salary. This is the prior day fantasy point column here. So you could see which players have played or who are about to do a back-to-back. So, for example, Carmelo Anthony had 46.4 fantasy points
Cool.
last night. So you can see what players have played last night and what their production was. You know, this is the position column. You got your team opponent and the matchup. This is a fixed column. This won't change with the drop down here. So this, you can see what the 10-point average fantasy points is. It depends on the type of when I download the file, but it tells you who's out and if there's game time decision players and stuff like that, kind of like an injury report.
So where do you get your stats from?
I get my stats from Basketball Reference.
Okay.
Do
you automatically pull them or manually enter them?
No, I just copy the whole page and just paste it.
Okay,
and
great.
Then I just created my own database, and I just manipulate the data however I want.
Would love to hear more about the database later.
Yes.
So the next one's your DVP. You know, the ones highlighted in blue are the ones you kind of stand out and you want to pay attention to. So
blue's good.
Blue's good, yeah. So you can see in the over/under, like 220, that's high. And then the spreads,
like
you know,
green is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see like Luol Deng here, he's got a good DVP matchup. You know, and then this is a player ranking by 2,000 by the season average fantasy points. So you can see in this slate tonight, you had the #1 center and #1 shooting guard.
For last year or this year?
No, for this year.
Oh, okay.
And it goes off the season average fantasy points.
Wow.
So, you know,
Curry isn't the #1?
I'm sorry?
Curry isn't. So Westbrook's the #1 at his position.
Yes, right now, currently with season average fantasy points.
Curry doesn't play fourth quarters.
Yeah, that would. Exactly.
All right.
And then over here is the historical averages. So just kind of gives you an idea of what they've done when they played against their opponent. So.
That's against the opponent?
Yes.
Awesome.
So you can see in 2015, DeMarcus Cousins, I think he might have only played 1 game. You know, you just have to check the schedule.
Yeah.
Because it's an average. So I seriously doubt he's averaging 28 points. Maybe it was just a dud night that night. But you can see in 2014, he averaged 56.9 fantasy points against Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
Right? And in 2013, he averaged 32 fantasy points against Cleveland. And then
Melo's numbers look pretty bad tonight. Or is that Giannis? That's Giannis.
Yeah, Melo actually looks pretty good. I like to look at what's consistent. So if they're consistent in the 40s, that could be a good matchup. You know, then I would put that player on a list, and then I would like kind of dig deeper to see.
So the list would be your altered beast.
Yeah, like okay, for example, exactly. So the altered beast is kind of like a solver. So I just kind of put him on a list here, and then after I create a list, I'll adjust fantasy points and I'll run a solver. And it's
so that's a cheat sheet of your cheat sheet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Beautiful.
So I like this because I like to see what they've done in the past, you know, against other teams. Like here you got James Harden, who's got great numbers here against Philly in the last couple of years. You know.
That's awesome.
So that's that. And everything is sortable. So if you want to see what the highest average is, historical average that what they're playing against their opponent tonight is, you know, you could just sort it from Z to A, source it from highest to lowest. So you just need to scroll down, and then you can see by sorting it.
How come you put that gap in there?
I'm not sure. It's just because there's formulas in here.
Oh, okay.
So, it's just easier to send it out like this. Usually I would delete the formulas and then it would be on top, but there's formulas in there. It's a live sheet.
No problem.
But you could see the historical averages here, like Kyrie Irving's in second. He's got a good DVP matchup here. He's averaging 53.6 fantasy points against.
And he's had a double-double versus them, right?
And he's had a double-double. Yeah.
So that's what that is right there. That's the double-double versus the other team.
Correct. This one right here is the DVP double-double. I'm just going to undo what I do here. So, all right. So, Kyrie Irving. You can see Russell Westbrook had a double, triple-double. LeBron James had a triple-double against Sacramento earlier this year.
Oh, good, because I got him in a $25 single entry, so let's go.
I think he's going to do really good tonight.
I like hearing
So this tells you the season. Double-double, triple-doubles. This is a DVP double-double, triple-double. And that's kind of new I put in. Just, I just kind of want to look at it. I don't really put too much thought into it, So here, I like this because you can also change the drop down. So you could do the last 5 days of my 4 ceiling analysis. And for those of you who are not familiar with this just tells you how many points that they have scored in the last 3 days. So for example, let's take the last 10 days here. So DeMarcus Cousins has scored over 35 fantasy points every game in the last 10 days.
Over 40 every game.
Over 40 every game, yep.
Oh, wow. And look at Durant. Whew.
Yeah, Durant. Over
Chris
50.
Paul.
The last 4 games, he has scored over 50 fantasy points every game.
Oh, my God. CJ, you see that?
I'm looking, dude. You look crazy.
So what you can do, you could change this to the last 20 days. You can change this to the season. So Westbrook in the season, he's hit over 50 fantasy points 46% of the time, which is probably the #1 guy of the slate tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it. Number 2 would be Stephen Curry.
Wait,
And then
wait, do that again. So the #2 fantasy guys you're saying on the season tonight?
Yeah, so Russell Westbrook is the #1 guy who has scored more than 50 fantasy points the most times. If that makes any sense. So he's scored more than 50 fantasy points 46% of the time. Curry has scored more than 50 fantasy points 44.1% of the time throughout the whole season. Now, I like to incorporate this with the DVPs, if they got a weak matchup and they're scoring over 75% of the time over 40 fantasy points, that's the guy I'll probably put on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see what they did. I also have the prior year too here, just for whatever, because I had it. So you can look at what they did.
I think that's interesting. What I think about that, players who haven't been watching for a while and kind of just started, you may feel like you have a good feel for the game already. It's very important to look back last year and the year before to see how some players did, because there was a player that was super hot last year, but maybe it was injured this year, just not getting the right minutes, and then he's put in a good spot. That's how you find great value by knowing the historical statistics as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could see here, just to mention about injuries, Russell Westbrook, so far this season, he's scored over 50 fantasy points 46% of the time. Now, I remember last season, Durant was hurt a lot, and you could see that last season he was scoring over 50 fantasy points 53% of the time. So this is, something that you can look at. This column here I really like, these fantasy point columns. This gives you a season average. This is the adjusted average. So
yellow you can adjust.
The yellow you can adjust depending on your driver is here, B3. So in the last 20 days, this will give you your average fantasy points in the last 20 days. If you change it to 15, it will change. It'll give you the 15-day average.
Okay,
so this right here is the PTHV, which is an acronym for points to hit value. Now, value is all based on perception. I think like some people will give value more to other players on certain nights, but this is kind of just a basic, what I think it works. So, for example, DeMarcus Cousins, on his price, I base it on a $225 per point. So I take the salary, I divide it by $225, and then that's what I get for value. So DeMarcus Cousins at $11,100, he would need about 49. It's kind of a guesstimate,
Right. So 225 is your thought on what's a good value.
Yeah.
Average.
Yeah. As far as being consistent and stuff like that, but people could change that. You could lower it, and that'll increase how many points they need to hit value, or you could raise it, and that'll decrease how many points they need to hit value.
Okay. So that the next one, the season, is how often they've hit 47. All right. So let's say Westbrook, he's hit 47 points that he needs tonight, 63% of his games on this season.
Correct. So he needs, based on the math that I'm providing here, he needs 47 at $10,600, right? Mm-hmm. He would need about 47 fantasy points to hit any kind of value, and he's scored over 47 fantasy points 63% of the time.
Yeah, well, his average is above that, which is this is awesome, man. Yeah. I really enjoy you going through this, and I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, man, anytime. And then this one here, this also has a drop down, so you can see how many times in the last 20 days, in the last 15 days, the last 5 days, he's hit that. You know what I'm saying? So, Durant in the last 5 days.
What's the adjusted? What's the adjusted?
The adjusted is driven off here. The B3.
Oh, okay. It just means the days. All right.
Yeah.
Not like PvP matchups or anything.
No, so adjusted just means that these headers are driven off this cell here.
Gotcha.
So, you could compare season average field goal attempts versus the adjusted average. So you can see that DeMarcus Cousins, he's averaging 23.4 field goal attempts in the last 10 days, and his season average is 20.8. So you can see that in the last 10 days, he's been shooting more than his average.
Okay, and then what's the next one? DVP field goal average.
So this is how many field goals that this column, this I just put in, and what I've been finding out, I look through here and I find he has the best matchup as far as field goal attempts, and I've been plugging that guy in.
I like that a lot, and I was gonna say you can see it just from Boogie, because we know that Cleveland's good against centers, and it's not only that they're just good, they don't give up a ton of attempts in general.
Yeah.
So that's very important to notice. Okay, I like that a lot.
I actually, this is one of the first things that I look at when I update the sheet here. So like Rodney Hood, he's a game time decision, but Golden State, they give up. This is a season total. So Golden State has given up 1,392 field goal attempts in the shooting guard position so far this season.
Would you be able to put in another column to the right of that, which is per game?
Yeah, I could do that per game, and then what I could do is just get it driven off whatever average you put in here.
Yeah.
That would probably be the easiest way. Yeah, I could do that.
So because, looking at that, I see 1370, and it looks big, but relatively, I would have to really sort it by position to see if that's good or not compared to that position. But if I could see that quick, and, I know generally if a shooting guard puts up 20 shots, that's good per day, per game or something.
Yeah, and what's really cool here as well, you could not sort, but you could filter out by position by using these drop downs here. So these are all the shooting guards, and then you can see what the floor ceiling analysis is based off that. And I have this thing called the drop off rule, where if you have someone who's like 11,000 and then the next person's like 5,000, you want to play that person who's the number one guy. Of course, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer. You know, if the next person in line is $5,000,
yeah,
you want to put that guy in that position. But let me put back on all the positions here. So, like, you know, this is three-pointers columns here, so it's basically the same thing as what I just showed you for the field goal attempts. It just shows you the three-point attempts. So, you know, Curry in the last 10 days has averaged 12 three-pointers. His matchup tonight has given up 32.3% three-point shots. Three-point field goals that have been.
Is that makes? Yeah, makes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Curry looks like a pretty good matchup here because, you know, he's the number one guy shooting threes in the last 10 days. Number one guy shooting threes season average.
Dude, if I look at this, and I, you know, just on first glance, looking at the slate, I look at Curry and I see Utah. I see slow pace, you know, maybe an okay matchup, you know, maybe avoid Curry at that price and pivot. So this would make me want to go a little bit more on him in a tournament.
Yeah, because maybe a lot of people are going to back off on. But like the thing is about the studs and these people who are like $10,000, $11,000, like they're kind of like outliers because they can go off on any night versus any team, no matter what the DVP says. You know,
but a lot of people play like that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So it could be somewhat contrarian. Definitely, for sure. You know, and then you got the assists here, rebounds, blocks, steals. And the over-under just means, like, you know, right now, Kevin Durant is 2.4 assists on average versus his season average in the last 10 days.
I like that you compare, you know, last 10 days to season. Like, that's great.
Yeah, so you can kind of see, you know, if they're picking up or dropping down or whatever. I don't really pay too much attention, you know, to all that, but I just put it in there. Just maybe some people like it. I don't know. You know, I could take it out or whatever.
I just wanted to point out real quick before we move on, CG, that bum Ish Smith has 6 points at the half against my boy Beverly. So I didn't want to say I told you so, and he could end up with a decent game, but come on, man.
I didn't know. Hey.
So
you see, I stacked up on Philly stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I attack Houston everywhere except Beverly.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, you know, you could. That's. I mean, attacking Houston at the point guard position, you can see why with the DVP here, and it's a high over/under game.
Yeah, but Beverly's like an individually pretty good defender. Like, the only one who plays defense on that team, besides maybe Ariza.
Yeah. So I'm almost done here.
Now go through this. I think this is very important and something that at this moment, first of all, I don't understand the metrics, so I want you to go over that.
So
but the salary and the cost per point, you know, I'm a very big guy on value. Please explain this area to me.
Absolutely. So the season value means how many times they've hit value based on that $225 per point. I'm thinking about increasing it, you know, decreasing it, or, you know, just making it harder for them to hit value.
Okay, so they stand out more.
Yeah. I think 225, I think when I started doing this was a good number, but I think next season I'm going to kind of like mess with it and kind of see.
225, I guess we could say is probably about 5x or so.
I'm not sure how people determine those times over value.
All right, well, 5x is basically if you're $5,000, we're expecting you to score 25 points.
Gotcha. Okay. So if
you're 10,000, we expect you to score 50.
Yeah. So that's not 5 times value, is it?
No. Okay. Well, it's 5. You know, that's what 5 times the salary is. What we expect for that.
Okay. I see. So like.
You're 6,000, 5x. We want 30 from you minimum. You know. For 5X.
So here I have, you know, Anthony Davis at 10,000. it would be nice if he scored 44 points. You know, that's what I'm expecting him to hit value.
Okay,
So mine is a little bit under.
Yeah.
Mine
See,
would be
that to
probably,
me, that would be a 4.4 to me. That's the way that I would look at that, or
Yep.
44 or whatever. So
Yep.
we look at value a little bit differently in terms of salary. So I
Yeah.
think that's definitely something to point out between the way we look at the game.
Yeah, and the reason why I keep it at $225 per point is because you're not going to expect this player to hit 5 times value every night. You know, I was trying to
Right.
find a happy medium, which was,
Yep, I have kind of like a sliding. Yeah, so I guess you would say I kind of have a sliding scale, right? So the cheaper you are, the more value I want you to hit. But if you're 3,500, I don't mind if you hit, 15, 18 points. But
exactly.
I would love for, that 30 points out of that guy for the 10x. So out of the 10,000, if I get 40 points, yeah, it's a little disappointing we didn't get the 5x. But at that point, you're guaranteed 40 points. That's good on a lot of nights.
Yeah, exactly. So, so this just tells you how many times they've hit value based off my $225 per point. So you can see Rondo, he started off the season low salary-wise. So that's why that number is so high.
I'd like to show you a simple regression formula that I made when we finished with this.
Okay.
I had Rondo highly regressing towards the mean positively earlier in the season.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be nice to see that. So this right here, everything in the yellow, like I said earlier, is driven off this drop down here. So you can see which players had hit value in the last 10 days the most times.
Nice.
Right here is the same thing, but kind of a percentage.
How many times
Yeah.
in those games percentage-wise?
So you can see Kevin Durant in the last 4 games, he's hit value 4 times, 100%. Carmelo, last 5 games, 4 times, 80%.
So for all the guys who don't really know Excel that well, so when you scroll, you have a certain part that locks into the left that you can always see, and then there are other parts that scroll through it. What do you call that?
That's you go up to view and you just freeze the panes.
Freeze pane.
Yep. Yeah. So I want to keep this information here because I want to keep looking at this to see the matchups, see how many games they played because of this drop-down feature here.
Great.
If I didn't freeze the panes, then you wouldn't be able to use this or view all this information.
No, I like that. That's something that I haven't implemented myself yet, so I'm definitely gonna put into all my spreadsheets from now on. So thanks.
Yeah, it makes it a lot. It makes it a lot more easier to read.
Cool. So let's continue here.
So right here is just the average cost per point. So you can see
lower the better.
Lower the better, absolutely. So you can see James Harden in the last 10 days, it's been costing you $196 per point that he scored based off your $60,000 budget that you have to pick your players. This salary section here I like as well because I get to see, the phrase. Buy low, sell high.
Yep.
So what I like to do is I like to see which players, like in the last 20 days maybe, might have decreased their salary. So you can see that right now Michael Beasley's at 3,500.
So red is good?
Red is bad. Well, it depends how you look at it.
Right.
If a player that hasn't played in a while is just getting back from injury, and you can see what his salary has dropped based off the average of the last 20 days. So this is an average. So you can see that Rondo has had in the last 20 days he's averaged $9,000. Right now it's 8,500, and that's just the variance. So you can see that his price has dropped $500 versus his 20-day average salary.
All right, cool. So we have the minutes that also adjust with the slider or the driver, as you call it.
Yeah. So you got the season, and then you got the average minutes. So you can see that Harden has been playing on average 3 minutes more in the last 20 days than his season average, and you could just look and see what it was in the last 10 days. And like also here, you can still see because some teams play more games than others in 10 days. So I like to keep this here so you can see how many games they've actually played.
Track of that.
You know.
Just so you know, Beast, we have 2 people in the chat right now that said the spreadsheet makes a lot more sense to them now.
Oh, great.
Great. Me too. Me too, honestly, because I felt very overwhelmed with the information, but now I kind of know when I open it up where I would go right away.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to do something like this. I just, haven't really got around to it.
Understood.
So, and I try my best putting these instructions in here, like the Beast Guide, and then the Ultra Beast Guide, which kind of gives you instructions and directions on how to use the tool.
Usually when I download it, I'm rushing around trying to get lineups in and write articles, so I don't have the time to really go through it like this. So this is great, and I'm going to be able to refer to this later.
Yeah, great. So just to wrap it up here, the Beast metrics. This is just some metrics that I kind of came up with myself. I got the Cush, which is like the points to hit value minus the 10-day average fantasy value. So this just kind of gives me an idea of how many points they need to hit value versus how many points that they average in the last 10 days.
Cool.
So you can see Giannis here, So if I scroll here, I can see, where's the fantasy points? Right here. So he needs 43 fantasy points to hit value. He's been scoring 53. He's been averaging 53 fantasy points in the last 10 days.
So he's still underpriced.
And he's this kind of tells me which guys are getting hot.
Yep.
You can tell by the
both
salary.
Both of the point guards are out tonight.
Yeah.
Hey Beast, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. When you're pulling this data, why do you go by 10 days, rather than like a 5-game situation?
Well, if you look here, 10 days is actually about the last 5 games.
Okay.
So
it's able to show you in 10 days this team's played 5 while Stephen Curry's only played 3.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I like that. I definitely like that.
Yeah.
And then that's why I have this here where you could change it. If you want to look at a bigger sample size, you could look at 20 days. If you want to look at a smaller sample size, you could look at the last 5 days.
Beast, I think that's something that, we would like as well as other people would like. If you wanted to do a series of Excel tutorials, because this is something I wanted to do, and I know nothing close to you, a series of Excel tutorials and maybe make it a course or individual videos, but I think people would pay. I think people would pay to get a lesson from you, especially at low cost, hoping just for volume and a lot of people looking at it. I think that's something people would definitely do.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Something that is worth your time to do, since we're all busy and everything, but affordable enough for that the everyday player can watch it if they want to set up their own projections. Because I know personally, me going through all this, it's been kind of hard to learn it myself, and a lot of hours spent on YouTube just trying to look at this is a formula for this, but not really being able to tie it into DFS. So there's a lot of people who they don't want to make their own lineups. I mean, they don't want to buy lineups. They want to make their own lineups.
Yeah.
They want to make their own projections and spreadsheets. They can learn from what I know and from what you know at a very low cost. That are more advanced things that aren't the free stuff we're giving out.
Yeah, that's good. I like that idea.
Yeah, I'm in that group of people, Ben.
Oh, right on.
All right, cool.
Excel's a very powerful tool. I love it.
Yeah,
I believe so as well.
And there's so much that Excel has that I don't really use. Like so many other tools that they have that I haven't even had time to learn or even using. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Well,
I'm still learning as well.
I have an idea. Maybe what we can do is kind of chronicle our MLB building or something like that. Like if you wanted to really put the time into building it. I know you don't have the time for it, but if you were getting compensated for it, would it be worth the time to build one along with us?
Yeah, well, we could talk about that. Sure.
Awesome, awesome, cool. So I think that's definitely something we could do. And personally, MLB is my favorite sport to play DFS, and it's my best sport. So if I could develop, or you could develop something like this, like the Beast and everything for MLB, I think over the course of that massively long season, it's going to be so extremely useful. So I think people would pay for it. I certainly would if it was something that was available out there for me to purchase.
Yeah.
Also, I have a lot of fan graphs reports that I currently love and use, so we could just dive right into that. So I would love for you to join us with that.
Yeah. Let's see what we could do. Absolutely.
All right, cool. So can you go through gap and risk real quick before we check out Altered Beast?
Yeah, very quick. The gap just tells you, like, if you hover over some of these headers up here, it kind of gives you what the description is. So like the gap is just your adjusted fantasy points minus your season average. So if you're looking at a 10-day fantasy points, it just takes your 10-day average fantasy point and it subtracts it from your season average. So you can see that, Giannis, you can see that he's it's a 20, so it's pretty high. So you can see that, in the last 10 days, he's averaged 53 versus his season average, which is 30. This just kind of gives you like a quick idea, so you don't have to do the math yourself.
That's funny because my regression formula was the 3-game. It was 3-game minus it was
I could do
season long minus the 3-game.
Got you. So this is a 3-game here, and then the gap is driven by this one here. So, but the Kush is only driven by the 10-day average. This isn't, or is it?
That's a fixed formula.
Hold on, let me just double check here. No, it changes as well.
Okay, cool. That's fine with me.
And then the risk just basically tells you, if you hover over here, it's your season average fantasy points minus how many points you need to hit value. So you can see with Giannis, for example, again as well. Where is it?
So the more it goes to the left, the less risky it is.
Yeah, and I don't really pay too much attention to it. I mean, the one that I do pay attention the most to is the Kush, but I include these in here just to kind of see, just to analyze it. You know what I'm saying? To see if there's any kind of trends or whatever. I don't focus too much on this. So like, let me see here. Hover over here. So your season average minus your points to hit value.
Season average minus points to hit.
Yeah. So you can see that his season average is 53, but he needs 43 to hit. So
how come you put that at the end and not where the points to hit value are? I think it would be better visually there.
Yeah.
Personally, because you have to keep scrolling back and forth. Why wouldn't you put it right next to it so you just have that as like, all right, points to hit value, who has the best cushion next to these points to hit value, and they're right next to each other.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wasn't even going to put this in here. I just kind of threw it in there at the end.
I like it. I like it a lot. So I would definitely prefer it if it was if I didn't have to keep scrolling back and forth to use.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely something to consider.
Yeah. So so you could see like the positive numbers are good because right here for example you got Drummond. He's got a risk of 3. So his average fantasy points is greater than what he needs to hit value.
Oh, okay, I got it.
You see, so that means that he's been in a slump. You can tell by these 2 metrics here, by the cushion and the gap. Yeah. So this means that he's going to probably pick it up sometime. So the positive.
Okay, so it's looking for someone to bounce back.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
So here, if I put this to season, real quick. So where is it here? So his season, he's been averaging 40 points a game per 40 fantasy points a game per season, and he only needs 38 to hit value, and he scored over 38 fantasy points 53% of the time.
Right, and then you can move over to the floor ceiling analysis and look at like the past 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, you can dig deeper however you want to analyze the data. So
Awesome
that's all that right there. That's the Beast Junior. And then, you know, I mentioned earlier that I like to make a list of people, so I got, you know, I just copy paste the people here. And
all right, let me just interrupt real quick. I don't think you understand how good this kind of information would be for baseball. It would be much better for baseball than it is for basketball because of the season-long averages and the lifetime career averages pretty much always regress back to the mean. So if you have someone who's going crazy in the beginning of the season, they're gonna do worse towards the end. That's just the way it works in baseball. And like you get hot streaks and you get cold streaks, so you can see in the last 3 to 10 days who's getting cold and who's going to bounce back, and that's how it works in baseball. People go through slumps and hot streaks, and pitchers do as well. So if you have, you know, a pitcher who's going through a cold streak with a batter who's going through a hot streak with good splits, dude, you can predict as much as you'll want with this stuff.
Nice.
So I really want to do that kind of, you know, averages over the season and the last 10 days and that kind of stuff with baseball, and we have all the information for it.
Oh yeah, that'll be. I mean, if you guys have all the information and stuff, then
it's
an order of.
It's basically it's basically Basketball Reference, but with many more in-depth stats to the point of it tells you where, you know, how a person performs in which batting position, like which order in the lineup, and which stadium, and which hitters and lefties, righty splits, and all this different kind of stuff. So you could basically pick as much advanced stats as you want. And I
would be curious to see the data now. I can manipulate all that.
Cool. Yeah, we'll go through it if you want after this or when we got some time. So let's do an altered beast.
Yeah, just real quick. So, you know, this is my list. You can type in the name or copy paste. You know, but like if you don't have a name in there, it just there's blanks. So you can see what their salary is, their matchup, Vegas, DVP rankings. Remember, blue's good. So like Chris Paul's got a good DVP ranking. Up here is the minutes, field goal attempts, and cost per points, and they have drop downs down here as well, so that you can change. So you can see like the last 10 days, 20 days. You can do a season average. You know, so it depends, you know, what you want to look at. And then here, this column is your adjustments. So right now I have this set at, you know, that DeMarcus Cousins is going to do 49 fantasy points. If you think based off the DVP that he's going to go lower, you just put like a -4 in. And it changes.
-4 points.
Yeah, and it changes this column here for the fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you think that Curry's going to do better, you just put like 3 in, and it increases the projection that you put in.
How often do you do that?
It depends how much time I have. If I have time, I'll, you know, sit down and make a list and then start messing around with all the different projections and what I think they're going to hit. You know what I'm saying? It does
Can I
take
make a
some
recommendation?
time. Yeah.
All right, so something that CG and I have been doing is, oh wow, Brandon Knight's active tonight. What we've been doing is adding fantasy points per minute and minutes, and so if you can adjust the minutes there instead of the average, if you can adjust it to maybe what you think it's going to be because someone is out tonight and getting a starting spot or something to change the points to hit value or projection or something, that might be something to think about as well.
Okay. Yeah, I actually thought about that. It's just a little tricky with the formatting of the time because it comes in. You can't do a formula. You can't because of the way it's formatted. But I could probably figure something out like to work around it.
Right.
You know,
okay.
That's it just takes time to figure something out like that.
Yeah,
but
no
it
problem.
can be done.
Just a suggestion, and it's something that I think is valuable.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing something like that too because a lot of people like to adjust the times and not the fantasy points.
Right, like for example, today Jared Bayless, right? He was going to be playing and getting a decent amount of minutes, but then both the starting point guards go out. So just for example, it's like, all right, he averages, 23 minutes per game or whatever. So now he's going to go up to 26. Now it's not a crazy boost, but it's definitely something that should be accounted for. Or if it's, Mario Chalmers getting the boost with Conley out, I think something like that in this time when, there's so many people who rest and start at low value, that it's definitely something to account for.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. So this right here just gives you the percent of times they scored over what they need to hit value that you project. So you can see Russell Westbrook, if I think he's going to do over 47, I think he's going to do 51, then this column changes here. So the higher the points go, this decreases. So if I think that he's, going to do 10, you can see that he scored over 57 fantasy points 19% of the time. And what I've been kind of experimenting is maybe doing lineups where you keep this column like 33%. Because I think 1 out of 3 times they're probably going to score that. So I like to adjust the points and make this into 33%. So like I would probably do this like.
So why don't you have it as kind of a sliding scale instead of 30? When you see someone who's maybe in not a great DVP matchup, or there's something you just don't like as much, maybe you push that to 40 just to have some more realistic expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what that adjustment column is here for. This tells you how many games they've played and the percent of times they've hit value. I also included the historical average here, which is also what I showed you here. So you can have that to reference when you're adjusting points. And then this is just like a 2014 season average, this season average, and you have a 3-day average, 5-day average, 10-day, 15-day, 20-day. So you could see like Kevin Durant, in the last 20 days he's been averaging 51, last 15, 54, then the last 5 days he's gone hot right here.
Right.
So this kind of shows me like how long they're on a hot streak. So, if these 3 columns here are green, and then here's like yellow and red, I might want to look into that. See why.
So if he's on a hot streak, and then you see, the 10 and 15 is a little lower, odds are he's going to regress back to that.
Yeah, eventually.
Right.
Oh
man, this is going to be great for baseball.
And then this is like your floor ceiling analysis, which is the same thing over here.
Oh, guys, and by the way, I never said Bayless was good. It was just an example.
How's he doing tonight?
Someone just said in chat he has over 8 minutes played and 0 points.
Nice. Bum. So after you do all your projections, and stuff like that, you need to download the solver add-in, which is very easy. I give directions here on how to download it. So once you get that add-in in, and you do all your adjustments, you can hit solver, and this just takes a minute. Now, what I really want to do.
Wait, hold on. Before you move on, guys. So what you do, you install the solver. It's a tool that is used for Excel that it basically is an optimizer, and it takes cells. It takes the names from the cells over here in what that yellow tab is at the bottom called lineup analysis. And so when you click solver, there's a window that pops up, and then you click OK, and then you click OK there. So it's just 2 double OKs. Don't worry about any of this stuff that comes up, and it's just very basic. Do the solver, OK, and then you go into lineup analysis.
Yeah, so now the solver's done running, and then this gives you your lineup. So this lineup, I spent $59,800. I left $200 on the table, and it's pretty much gives you a Beast Junior view, of your lineup. So you have, your salaries, 10-day salaries, if they're like, either you're getting them at a discount or premium. For ceiling analysis, so you got your DVP ranking, so you can kind of get an idea of what the players, that the solver has selected. But remember, the solver is only as good as the projections that you put in. So
Wait, I'd like to point something out real quick, if you could scroll up. Something that I've never seen on any other optimizer anywhere, and this is a free tool right here, and I've paid for optimizers plenty of times. Look at the Vegas right after the guy's names to the right. He has a Vegas over under average and spread average. I've never seen that before for any type of optimizer. That is incredible. So like you want to have high Vegas averages when you're making lineups, and that's why I recommend making lineups in smaller later slates and then sticking them in the main, because those are usually the highest scoring games anyway. You want to kind of get those things, and I think that's awesome that your lineup optimizer shows that.
thanks, man.
Seriously, awesome. I've never seen that anywhere else.
It's just an easy formula, just average.
Of course, of course. But no one's ever, condensed that information like that, especially with the spread, because, if you don't want to have a lineup full of like crazy spreads or Stephen Curry. Yeah. You don't want to have an entire stack of Golden State when they're supposed to blow the whole team out, So I think those are awesome and useful, and that premium discount salary thing is cool because if you have a current price tag that's maxing it out, and then you have a 10-day salary of $100,000, exaggerating, then you're getting a great discount on all of the players that you have in your lineup. That's a great way to find a balanced value lineup.
Exactly. So you can see that Curry in the last 10 days, his 10-day average salary pushing 11,000. Well, I mean, he's not a really great example here, but PJ Tucker, you can see that you're purchasing him at a discount. So, and then you got the BeastDFS here, and field goal averages, and then down here you have your historical averages, and gives you averages too down here. Anything that says average in this row here. So what I look at here now, if I got these guys, you can also tweak the adjustments here. So this is the projection that they're going to give. Now, it's always going to shoot out 268, because if you take $60,000 and you divide that,
because of your point per
225, right? Exactly. So that's what it's going to. But then you could do final adjustments like here,
Okay, so how often do you find yourself doing adjustments before this, and how often do you find yourself doing adjustments after the lineup?
Like I find myself doing adjustments before more than after.
What does it optimize? Like, what is it looking for when it optimizes? That's something I think that a lot of people don't understand, and to my knowledge, I always thought the optimizers optimize whatever projection you had in for that player.
Yeah, and that's what it does per position. So if I knew what the players are going to score that night, and I plugged that into my projections, I would get the optimal lineup every night. But the thing is, the hard part is projecting what they're going to do. Of
course. So, do you have a feature where, let's say someone, and not to put down whatever projections your thing came up with, but let's say I made my own projection system, but I still love your tools and want to use your Altered Beast optimizer. Can I upload my own projections, or would I have to just do it by hand?
Yeah, no. What you could do, if you want it, if it's an Excel spreadsheet, you could just copy paste what the projections here is, or you can just adjust them here.
Oh.
So, you know what I'm saying? You could. So if your projection says that Cousins is going to do 55 fantasy points, right? What you can do is just add 5 here, and then it changes to 54, or you can just do 6, and there's the 55 there.
If I pasted over points to hit value, would it change any formulas?
Yeah. If you see here, there's a formula.
Yeah. So you would have to do it by hand for the most part.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to paste the information here, whether you do it by the adjustment or you paste it over the formula.
But so if I took I organized it by the player's name or something on each or like the player's salary on each page, I'd be able to still come up with the same list in a row with the projections, and I could just paste the projections over.
Yeah, yeah. Just as long as you have the right people with the right projections.
Right. Okay, cool. Now, just curious, and just trying to ask the questions that maybe someone out there might have been thinking. But all right, cool. So you trust what comes out? Do you spit up a lineup and then you take that and you roll with that in a cash or a GPP? Like, how much do you trust that?
I think, like I said earlier, it depends on what your projections are. So if you're good at projecting what they're going to score, then it's going to be a useful tool
I'm saying
for you.
Personally, like when you're making a lineup tonight, like you put in your altered beast, you press solve. Would you throw that lineup in and make a couple adjustments and then use what comes out?
Yeah. When I do use the tool, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had some pretty good success with this, and but the thing is that you have to put the time into doing the projections and doing the research. You can't just put numbers in there and run the tool and expect it to work.
So if I change the projection, if I change that final adjustment right there, and I went back to Altered Beast, I can't do a solver again that would spit out another lineup, could I?
Yeah, so what you would do here, like this right here, I like, because this tells you the percent time scored over the revised projection during the current season. So if I'm looking at this and I have PJ Tucker in here, and well, let's say Holiday, right? He scored 35.6 fantasy points 23% of the time so far this season. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to do that, so I'm going to lower this to like 5. Then it increases the percentage, and then down here gives you an average. So you can kind of, if you have a killer lineup that's spitting out like over 300 fantasy points and the percentage is like 43%, that all of your players are going to hit that projection that you did, that's a good lineup to put in.
So it's always going to optimize to 268, and then you have to do your adjustments to try to see how high you can get it.
Exactly. So let's say I put Curry as like 10, 58, and I put DeMarcus Cousins as 10. So the higher adjustments you put in, it's if you want to put that player in your lineup, you may want to increase your adjustment to a ridiculous amount and then adjust it here just to have them in your lineup. So if we run the solver here, we'll see if those two players that I adjusted are going to pull in. Now, what I want to do is be able to do this and have it spit out multiple lineups. So you could be like, I want to have 10 different lineups, 20 different lineups, and then have the solver spit out 10 or 20 different unique lineups.
You can do that?
Yeah, it can be done. I just haven't figured it out how to do it yet.
Okay. I know there's a free solver tool out there that this guy made. I gotta look it up, but I couldn't really get anything done with it, but I think you'd be able to. So I'll send it over to you.
Cool. I'll take a look at it. So you can see here, it's changed here because I increased the points value here originally.
Right. Yeah. So you would just go back and do that to the original page.
Yeah, and then you can see here now it's 280.
Okay, so yeah, so if I was making a lineup with this and I saw that, I like the -5 with Westbrook or whatever, or is that a +5? Minus, right? So and then I would go over to Beast Jr. and I would put a -5 next to Russell Westbrook's name. No, Beast Jr., right? So the main one, or you could do that in Altered Beast.
The Altered
Beast. Okay. So I'll go back to Altered Beast, and then I would put in the adjustment there. Yeah. Also, because I know I want that anyway, and then I would rerun it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so see, I thought if I put that in that final adjustment, it would be able to redo it. So I was wondering why it wasn't working, and you explained that for me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you need to make the adjustments here for one last time if you want to run it. But I mean, Russell Westbrook, he scored over 81, he scored over 42 fantasy points 81% of the time. So if you're projecting him to do 42, Yeah, it's a safe bet.
What if I wanted to? What if I wanted to look for that 80% range? And I'm like, all right, I want guys who are going to do this no matter what, and let's put together a lineup of 80%ers, including value guys.
Yeah, so what you could do is like do -10 here. You got James Harden. Let's do -10. He's 76%, -10. You know, and then you would just go through.
Right. And I want that to be green, you know, and I want to find, all right, I see guys that do the 65, but let's drop them down a little and get more confident in this lineup.
Exactly. And then based on what you put in and the players you select, they'll give you a lineup here.
This is great. This is great stuff, man. Thank you so much for going through this with us. It meant a lot to me, and I'm sure all the people who follow you will appreciate this, as well as everybody who is live.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you very much, guys. That was the Beast interview with a little bit of Excel tutorial, but we'll get that coming in the future. If you want to stop sharing your screen, and then we'll give you a little outro. Yep. So there's me. All right. So that was BeastDFS, guys. You could go to his website. He doesn't put that up every single day, but he tries to do it as often. One thing that I would like to say is that there is so much information on there. You may not even need to use anything else. Of course, I would never recommend that because multiple sources are always the best. But if you don't have a lot of time and you want a very extensive cheat sheet, I recommend looking through there. So if you want to take your stop screen sharing, so go over to the left.
I did already here.
No, all good.
Oh, there you go.
All right, cool. So say your goodbyes to everybody watching.
All right, man, it's been a pleasure. It was finally good to connect with you, and hopefully we'll do a lot more of this stuff in the future.
Absolutely, man. And thanks for having us, and have a good night.
See ya.